Alright, so this video is pretty much just making a relatively cheap portal. You can, do whatever design you want to. You shouldn't be tied to anything. I can't remember what, is this Slaanesh, maybe? Yeah, I think it's Slaanesh. I don't know, I'm a Dark Angel player. I don't fuck around with that heretic shit. But here's a pretty much a chaos portal. It's going to be a little bloody. If you're not good with freehanding or free drawing your templates, find something and trace it. Don't feel ashamed about that shit. So I made the inner ring is going to be the back part, but that little circle came out to be way too fucking small. So I ended up making another one. You'll see. Yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah. Plus you lose a good amount of the pieces coming out. So easy fix. What do? Cut a bigger one. Bam. And then I just, once you get all your pieces, just trim them to fit around the circle the best you can. They don't have to be perfect because you're going to drywall that later with a filler or whatever you want to use. I use this cheap drywall mud that's already pre-mixed. You get it at Walmart or even Home Depot. Home Depot's a little bit more expensive. Walmart goes for $6 for a small jug, but that small jug will last you. And I use kebab sticks, cheap wooden ones to hold it all together. And all that gap, it's going to get filled in later. I prefer using the wood glue rather than Elmer's glue, because Elmer's glue is it's not strong enough. So it's obviously been mudded. So the only way to get this thing to stick up is putting a nail through the board, just like how I did. I used this knife to start the hole and just whittled it down. The nail you can get at Home Depot for $1. And it really is the best. It's better than using wood or anything, because wood's going to wiggle. So the main problem is when you have the board flat like this, right? The nail's the only thing sticking out on the other side, so the edges of the board will wobble up and shit. So I just took hot glue and made them about the same thickness as the back of the nail. Just put them, you can put it right next to it and measure it out. Real simple and easy. And just made little rubber stoppers on the edge of the board. So when the board's flat with the nail in there, it feels flat and it doesn't wiggle and shit. Just a little life hack for you. And this was the first time I tried it that I used hot glue to glue the nail into the board. The back of it, don't do that shit. Use the wood glue. The problem with this glue, but fucking hot glue is, it's gonna be rubbery. It's never gonna be hard. So over time, that shit's gonna wiggle back and forth, and it's either gonna do damage to the board, it's gonna make the hole bigger, and the actual piece is always gonna to wiggle around and move. Eventually it's gonna break off into some shit, or it's gonna hang low. So I end up scraping it off, as you see, and I hung it upside down so that the weight is constantly being pulled on the nail, and then let the glue dry for overnight, and that shit don't move at all anymore. And it is solid, because it's going to be a little heavy with all the drywall mud and the water effects. You might be adding only a pound of weight to it, even with all the paint and when it's all done. But that pound's enough to make it, that little nail's the only thing holding off. And the board, it's not wood, so it's not going to be super hard. And I just threw some colors on there. You could paint it whatever you want. This is just show you an idea of what you could do. None of the videos I do are gospel. You're supposed to run with the idea, After I put all the colors I liked, do a dry brush of stone. Eventually, I mudded the floor first. Fuck it. Should have done that first, but it's easier, because then if you get drywall mud on the model itself, you wipe it off, but it's no big deal. Here, now I'm finally dry brushing. I was doing like 3 projects at a time. The shit took forever. But worth it. I ended up painting the base like a light brown, but I end up changing it later. So I use Null Shade, which is just the black wash. Go heavy on the cracks, and then everywhere else I just do a light coat. It's going to look nice. It's going to make it look dark. Old and mysterious like. My favorite part, adding the blood. Eventually, sometime today. The fuck? Do it. There we go. And just make a mess with it. The gorier, the better. I think I'm going to do a whole bunch of new videos where it's just like fucking grotesque and messed up. Like that real grim dark shit. You can do like a laboratory with some test tubes or something. It's got a real nice like bright red to it. And the cool thing about it is you put like saran wrap over the glass where you have the rest of it, and it'll stay wet. It won't like dry up. Get your finger in there. Gross. And I just use like pen ink for a fountain pen. And let that sit for about 2 days. So this stuff here is another product. It's another type of water effect. It comes off as like a gel, like pretty thicker than Elmer's glue. And the whole idea with this shit is it dries clear. So like if you made a river and you want to do like rapids or like say when the water hits rocks it foams up and it bubbles around, this is the shit that you would put on top of the water effects to give it that effect. One day I'll actually use this shit for what it's meant for. Had to add like a lot of ink to get it to look right, or get it more red than pink. It's got a real nice like what is it, Dawn of the Dead blood from the original, not the shitty remake, where all the like squibs are like a lot of acrylic paint and shit, and they're super bright red, like unnatural like red. It makes it stand out more, but when it dries it's going to be a lot darker and it's going to look more red than orange, and you'll be able to see through some of it. Not all of it, but some of it. And it washes off with just soap and water. As long as it's wet. When it's dry, you're kind of peeling that shit off something. But it never gets like real hard. It always stays kind of like rubbery. And pretty much all I'm doing is making a ring so that when I add more of the water effects later for the blood, it has somewhere to pool. That's the point of that. Rather than just pouring it on the piece and letting it just flow everywhere. And it's cool when it's dry and it gets paint on it. You could just some water and a rag wipe the paint off. And then something a little bit bigger. This is going to be a little hard to see because of the camera angle. But where the actual nail is, if you take anything away from this video, this is what you should be taking away. How to like hide things. And so you have that nail holding this whole piece up. You don't want to see the fucking nail, obviously. So instead of building some kind of, weird contraption to cover it, take a whole bunch of skulls and stack them around it. Some of the skulls I just painted black just to see what they would look like with the blood all over them. They don't look too bad. But this is where I put all on the front, so just to give you an idea. And I put the skulls in while this stuff was wet, because when it dries it's going to like stick in there. So some unpainted, some are painted just barely. They're going to be covered in blood anyway. I threw some of the gore in there. I like the paste look because it makes it all chunky and nasty looking. Kind of like when something comes out of the portal, it's like birthed out in like a nasty abortion of demon shit. So this is it dried. You can see it got a lot darker. Gonna make some more blood. I might do like a regular river next week because I gotta make one anyway. I won't make it all like fucked up. Just be like regular water. Make sure you get the blood everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's everything still wet. Yeah, still like even the black skulls are fine. I don't mind that shit. You might like want your skulls all painted. You know, the skulls don't turn white until they get bleached by the sun. You know, the bones are like a weird off-white. I like the bigger orc skulls better. And then I just covered all of this again. Just a little light coating. Spread it around with a brush. Let's get everything nice and gory. And that's it dry again. It's a lot darker than it looks. The light is giving it like almost an orangey tint to it. But it's really like a dark reddish. I like all the chunks and shit coming off of it. Looks real good. It's like someone had an accident here. So I didn't like the color of the base, so I went with like a super dark brown, and then I just did like 2 coats of like a couple shades lighter. And here I'm going to show you I actually paint over the water effects on purpose, just to show you that it's like it won't, as long as it's wet, even when it's dry you can kind of like rub it off, but when it's wet and you know you get paint on it, there I touched it some more, rubbed it in, wet rag, comes right off. Super easy. So don't get too fucking worried about that shit. It's all fixable. But I end up liking like the dark brown better. It's pretty much brown with a little bit of black in it, like 2 or 3 drops. And I just add some different shades of brown here and there. It looks more grim and dark overall. You know, you're not gonna have bunnies and flowers around like this fucking portal and shit. Unicorns. This is pretty sure if something like this popped up in your neighborhood, everything would be turning to shit. Especially with it bleeding the way it is. That's pretty much it. Some up close. But that's pretty much the idea, you know. Have fun with it, you know, don't take it too serious. I missed the spot in there, I gotta touch that up later. You know, if you take anything away from this, you know, another thing you can use water effects for, and how skulls, you know, clever ways to cover up, you know, structural things and the stuff like that. Just to give you an idea. Alright? I got shit to do now. Alright, bye.